here after Abu Ghraib, felt that torture was justified in some way. That was surprising to me. That was the surprising thing. So I was sort of trying to examine that more, more of a, and using myself as like a, as a representative sample of an American. And I wouldn't say, like, I try to make it clear in the book, like, if someone asks me, that this thing, people would ask me before I was, was going to have a child, before I had a child, they would say, well, when you have a child, you'll think differently, because, when she gets kidnapped, then you'll want to torture the person that kidnapped her. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't know if I'll change. But it wasn't that I would change, because I was sort of like, well, the question didn't make sense, or the phrasing of it didn't make sense to me, because I was like, well, sure, I might want to torture this person, but what does it have to do with us legalizing torture? Like, that didn't make any sense to me, that you would frame an argument in such a way that our darkest impulses, the thing we would do at the darkest moment in our lives, would then become law, the law of the land. It just seemed like a crazy way to frame the debate. And it seemed like that's how it was framed to a lot of people in America when they took those polls. And people were like, well, yeah, I'd kill the guy. And it's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with, like, whether we should justify torture or not. That's the whole, I would torture the guy too, but then I'd go to jail for it. I'd be okay with that, That's what you do. You torture a guy and go to jail. It's like, as I was thinking today, like, I used to, like, drive around in cars drunk a lot. And, I never, even at that time, I never thought that was a good thing to do. I never thought, like, wow, I drive in cars drunk a lot. We should make this legal. Like, this would be a good thing to make legal, because I do it all the time. Like, I knew, like, this is really a bad thing to do. And if I get caught, I'll hire some lawyer. Yes. Oh, we have a hand up over here. Sorry.
Did you feel like you had to exercise your demons or heal yourself somehow before you were ready to have a child?
Yeah, that was sort of part of it. But the whole exorcism thing is like, I don't think I have quite exercised my demons. I think that they're more, you sort of, you have good days and bad days, and you try to sort of like not cultivate the darker impulses. Exorcism suggests that you sort of can like get them out of you or something, and I think that's my intention of, at least from the movie, that you can somehow like get it out of you. And I have more of a sense that it's just like, it's like mental health. It's like, it's on a continuum. You have like, some days you wake up completely batshit crazy, and sometimes you wake up, really enlightened. And that seems to be the way one navigates through life, at least the people I know. And so you just try not to you try to sort of do the things that aren't going to make you, foster your darker impulses. So I've tried to do that. Like, yeah. And having a baby actually has helped me somehow, but it doesn't help everybody. Some people go, some people it brings out their darkness, as far as I can tell. I don't know. It's not like I can't like, say everyone should have a baby. And that'll help.
Can I ask a question, Dad?
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your working process? Like, do you work at home? Do you work somewhere else? Do you work every day? Do you walk away from it for like a month? Like,
when I worked on this book, I worked on it every day for a while, and I tried to work on, like, when the baby came, I was really desperately hoping that the book would be finished before the baby came, and for some reason, because it was a totally different book, but that was like even before I went to Istanbul, I was sort of done with the book, and it was a very different book. And then the baby, I went to Istanbul, I met these guys, which was actually very transformative to meet the ex-detainees for me. It was very, and I don't really even believe in transformative experiences, but that was one. Like I really was, my eyes were opened in a way they hadn't been. But then the baby came, so the baby has ended up taking over the book, like hijacking the book, and there's more baby in this than torture, actually. There's like a thread of torture with a baby. Riding its back, which I think is better. I think it's better for that. It sort of creates a tension in it that I think is good. But the process is really like, even when the baby came, that's what I was getting at. I had another year of writing before it would finish, or even more than a year and a half. And I had to write every day for 4 hours, or else it wouldn't get done. And before that, I was writing more than that. I was writing every day for, because I didn't have a baby. So could write for 6 hours. When you have a baby, like, you sort of, after 2 hours, you feel really stupid for writing, unless you're writing really well, because, like, you could be home with your baby, and it seems like, unless you're really doing something that's really good, then you're wasting your time, for me at least, so. Yes, sir. Yeah.
When did you start writing a series?
She's passing the mic, and then I won't have to repeat it. Yeah.
When did you start writing seriously, and did you write in college, and have you always written 6 hours a day? I mean, has that, like, I'm just wondering.
Yeah. No, I started writing, like I started this writing practice in my late 20s of writing an hour a day, and I've committed to that. And I did that for like 10 years. And before that, I wrote very sporadically and episodically and drunkenly, mostly. I wrote a lot after midnight that I couldn't read the next day. But I was always sort of writing, but I just, I actually, when I said the thing about Milton reading, spending 10 years of reading before he wrote Paradise Lost, I actually took that to heart, and I actually spent my 20s reading. I felt like there was a lot, I wrote some, but I actually kept that in mind. I'm like, well, that's not a bad way to spend your 20s, drinking and reading. And so I sort of thought about that when I was doing that. And then my 30s, I spent more like, developing a serious writing practice, I think. And then it sort of just kept expanding, so, into more hours a day. Yeah. So, gradually. Yes.
Your stories are really descriptive in an emotional and a visual way. And I wanted to know if you write more from memory or more from notes that you take.
Some is like I do this thing with students of mine. I have them go out and take and gather 5 observations a day, which is something I've done too, just sort of like to be in the world and to really notice and do it as pure description, so you can really develop your descriptive powers and allow the things of the world to sort of transform or not to transform, just to honor them, just to let them for a while just be what they are and not pour your ego all over them. And so they become your own thing, or just, this cup reminds me of my grandmother. But just let it be and let it have its own existence for a while. And I sort of encourage students to do that, and I did that for a long time. And then the transformative stuff just starts happening. Like you resist it, and it just happens anyway, because that's the subconscious pushing through, using the object as a container. They call that, what do they call that? The objective correlative. That's what Pound called it, I think. That where an object can contain the emotional energy of the world, a descriptive thing. Or the Greeks, go back to the Greeks, there's catharsis. Everyone talks about catharsis, but before catharsis is cathexis, which is the same thing as objective correlative. It's just an object containing the emotional energy of something. And you do that in writing so that you can pass that object on to someone. It's easier to pass an object on to someone for them to have their own emotional experience with it than just to pass pure emotion to them, I think. These are theories of writing. I have a lot of them. I teach. Too much. Is that good? One more question or not? I teach, that's an easy question. I teach at the University of Houston, Texas. The Venice of America. The hidden jewel of America.
Don't you live here?
I do. I live here, but I teach 1 semester a year in Houston, so I go down in the spring semester, and I've tricked my wife and child to come down for a chunk of it this year. I've told them it was Venice. So they're coming down for a little bit, which is good, because last semester I commuted back and forth. Last spring. I had the biggest carbon footprint of anyone in this room last spring. I flew 3,000 miles a week. Yes. I had the same seat on the airplane and the same steward and the same movie every week. Same movie. And that's good. I think that's a good place to stop on that note. Thank you.
Thank you to Nick Flynn, and thank you all for coming tonight. He's going to stick around, and if you have any other questions or want a book signed, come on up. Upcoming events are at strandbooks.com. Thank you for coming tonight.